Today on our show, man.
The man who walks between worlds.
That's right. We got a guest, and he's fucking special.
We do.
Stick around for the brand new Fat Man on Batman. Oh!
Hey!
What's up, man? Hold on, welcome back. To Fat Man on Batman. Boy, hey!
We went big.
Wow, that was huge. I'm Kevin Smith.
Marc Bernardin.
Chuckles here is Marc Bernardin. And we're going to dive into a show here today, man. The origins of this show, ladies and gentlemen, very Hollywood. I was getting a pedicure the other day.
As one does.
Well, fuck y'all, because he was getting a pedicure as well.
Yeah.
I was getting a pedicure. My wife was like, I'm going to get a pedicure. I said, fuck it, I'll go get a pedicure with you. I went to get a pedicure. I don't do the manicure, though.
Really?
No, manicure, you bite your teeth. But I can't bite my toenails because I can't reach. If I could reach that low, I'd be biting a lot more of my toenails.
This might be the first time I've ever said that might be too much.
Oh, my bad. In any event, I'm getting my toes done, and there's a guy across from me getting his toes done. He said, hi, and I looked up, and immediately I was like, oh, it's you! Like the way they used to show in movies where there'd be a POV shot, and they'd come up on a person and be like, it's you! And then that person be shot or something like that. I was very much
Or
like...
start like a musical sequence.
Very much. Neither of those things happened because we were the fucking getting our feet scraped and shit. But what started was a great conversation, man, because I was like, this motherfucker walked between two worlds, man. You're gonna recognize him instantly. The moment we put him on camera, you're gonna be like, that fucking guy. But what's amazing about this show is you're gonna learn that guy's fucking name. More than that, 10 minutes I talked to this dude. While I was getting my feet done, 15, I'll eat my hat. In that time, this dude gave better guests than like almost fucking 90% of the people I've ever spoken to on other podcasts. He was a living anecdote generator, dude. And like every story, I was like, oh, it's adorable. Oh, that's amazing. And it was all relevant to our world. Okay, so it's a big buildup. So what we're going to do is tell you the dude's fucking bona fides. Then we're going to tell you his name. Then we're going to fucking give you a single of this motherfucker. And when he fucking dramatically looks at you, you're going to be like, I know exactly who that is, man.
Yes.
In fact, before we fucking even announce who he is, let's bury the lead, right? Let's show the face. Okay. And then we'll fucking tell everybody. Here, give him a single. Ready?
No.
Oh!
Hey.
Come on, you know who that is.
On a swivel.
Come back to for the wide shot right here, not just the two. Yes,
it's
there we go.
the guy from the Wendy's commercials.
Bingo! Bingo! He did it, man. This is, now, here we got to do it because it's tough.
Yeah.
This is Dave
Dastmalchian.
Dastmalchian. Dave's last name is, spell it for him.
Dastmalchian. Took me till I was in kindergarten till I could spell it. I had to learn half the alphabet. But by the time I was on a show one time in a production office, I went to pick up per diem, and they said, we figured out how to say your name. This small chin. So ever since then, I tell people, you're from the Bronx, you got hit on Dastmalchian.
That's how you said it.
Dave Dastmalchian.
What is that nationality background?
It's a Iranian name. It's Farsi, and it means a seller of handkerchief.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
So where
explains
you were descended from a bunch of people who like you need a Kleenex?
Sold Kleenex back in the day. Yeah, like in the Crescent Circle, people had a cold. You went to my ancestors and you picked up.
There's only one guy you could go to.
I gotta go to Dastmalchian.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Dave here, as you look at him, you're like, why do I fucking know that guy? You're not even saying that because right away, you're like, I know that guy. Some faces you see, give him a single. Some faces you see and you'll never fucking forget, man. You ain't gonna forget that face for two reasons. I'll tell you why. Go back to the wide shot. You saw a little picture called The Dark Knight. Remember that? He was in it, dude. Yeah. You saw a little picture, and when I say little, I'm not just making puns, called Ant-Man. He was in it, man. Look, all right, there's the look right there from fucking Dark Knight. You remember that was the dude in the chair that Dark Knight was like, he's a diseased mind, like the Joker likes to play with. He was defending him and shit, and Harvey Dent wanted to like take him out. And you had a scene with the two biggies.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys, first of all...
I love him so much. He's so enthusiastic.
You guys, hey, first of all, it's awesome to be here. Thank you guys for having me. It's amazing.
I know, I'm rushing you right into the
pedicure thing, like crazy. Like, just, first of all, I just got to say, was that your first one ever?
No,
okay.
Fuck no.
It was mine. And
Don't lie, Dave.
I'm not lying.
Now you're hanging me out to dry
to
like
God.
he's the king of the pedicure.
I'm
I
going-
just happened to be walking by.
Stumbled in by accident.
Yeah, it's not like a fucking bathhouse.
If I get to
It's a
keep
pedicure.
running into Phil, I'm going to go now. Oh, we left, trust me. My wife said, oh, are you glad you went now? And I said,
My wife
I
said
met
to me-
Kevin Smith. I got to sit next to Kevin Smith.
Why
Yeah.
are wives such wise asses? Because you left my wife goes, who's your new boyfriend? And I was like, you were right there. there. What do you mean? How do you not know?
Dude, it was awesome.
It was very sweet.
It was
No, apparently the key to getting on
Written
the
in the
show as a
stars.
guest is just to get a pedicure.
get a pedicure.
Show up where we're getting pedicure.
I'm not giving
man.
away my secret location now, though.
Dude, that's not what got him on the show. What got him on the show is the moment he started talking, I was like, oh my God, you're a fucking podcaster's wet dream.
Well-
everything was a wonderful, well-rounded anecdote. Let's take him to the beginning, though.
Yes.
Because those are two massive, and as I said, that's a man who walks between two worlds. He got a foot in DC, and he got a foot in Marvel as well. Big foot in fucking Marvel. So this is a guy who's done it all, and he's done a lot more since then.
It is for anybody who who watches. It's a dream. It's the biggest dream. It's insane. I was I grew up in Kansas. I started buying comics when I was 9 years old.
What was your first comic?
Third
Remember?
grade. It was an Avenger. I actually brought it.
God. See, I told you,
Avengers
he gives good
249.
guesses.
Oh, is it signed?
That's a part of a story that I'll
Okay.
get to, but you can actually see the trace marks because I used to want to illustrate, and so I used to trace, and this is such a great cover because it's got all, so many of the heroes right there.
Yes, look at that lineup.
But I was that same summer, it was on a spinning rack at a 7-Eleven in Kansas City, and then I soon found a place called Clint's Comics South, which was a comic shop where I started riding my bike all the time, and that was soon after that when Miller's Dark Knight was happening, and then Death in the Family, and all these amazing. So I was really in love with which Joker played such an integral part of some of those. So I was a huge fan of the villains of DC, and then the heroes of Marvel. And I continued. This is embarrassing to admit now as an adult, but the first serious collection that I subscribed to that I got monthly was the West Coast Avengers, which a lot of people give me shit for, but
That's
I
not weird.
loved those guys. And I was 9, man. Tigra was like my first
Boy-girl thing?
stroke inspiration. Yeah.
All right. The lady who looked like a cat. Yes.
Yeah, she was hot. And Wonder Man was rad, and he
They
was
put it on Front Street. They don't say pussy, but it is.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not? Did that also have Marvel Man in it as well? The West Coast Avengers?
No, Wonder Man
was in it, though, right?
Hawkeye was
and Wonder Man. That's who I'm
Wonder
thinking
Man.
of.
Yeah, Wonder Man was attitude all the time, and Clint was the leader of the gang. But Hank got involved, and I really was. Hank was in a dark period when they were writing him into the West Coast stuff, and I thought this guy's amazing. So then I started doing more research into like who's Hank Pym, and then I started to learn about the Avengers, and then as you get older, you dig further back into the history of the comics. So now, as a grown-up, being in both of these worlds has been, it literally is. I wake up sometimes, I still can't believe that this is really my life.
That's right, dude. You'd be a Hank Pym fan, or at least familiar with Hank Pym, as a West Coast Avengers reader. Years later, they're like, you're going to be in a scene with Hank Pym.
Yeah. Played by Michael Douglas. I mean, like, oh my God, taking me back to like Romancing the Stone and being like,
Yes!
what? Oh my God.
An amazing fucking movie.
So yeah, I went from Kansas City to Chicago. I was studying theater. I became a theater actor, and I don't know how long to make this story, but
Make it long. Tell them who you know, who you met back in the day.
I'm doing theater in Chicago. You're not making any money, and I was a telemarketer by day, and I was working at a movie theater, sweeping popcorn, and I got a chance to audition for one of my favorite filmmakers in the indie side of things, a guy named Chris Smith, who made American Movie.
Oh, fucking, I love American Movie.
American Movie, the two guys making their horror film, Coven. So Chris, who directed that, was shooting this commercial, and we just hit it off immediately, and he really taught me how to get in front of these things, because it was very different coming from the stage. And so
How much theater had you done, and where'd you do it in Chicago?
A lot. I mean, I was working all over town, doing the like storefront 45 folding chair seat theaters, then starting to make my way up into the bigger regional theaters. So when I did the commercial with Chris, around that same time I got to start working in bigger theaters, and I was playing Montano in a production of Othello at a place called Writers Theater, one of the really cool big theaters in Chicago. And now I started getting in front of the camera and feeling comfortable with it, and I wanted to go work in movies. I mean, that was my dream. That was my goal. I wanted to go, so I was going to save up enough money to move to Hollywood and go for it.
When about is this? What year are we
This
thinking
is
about?
2006-ish, 2007, right? The winter of 2006, 2007. I made
Oh
up my
God,
mind.
you're
I'm
not
gonna
even
go.
10 years in, dude. And look at your fucking bona fides, man.
Well, I hear that the Batman movie, they're saying the sequel to the Batman Begins is going to come into Chicago, and they're going to cast, and they're going to be looking for people, and I'm like, don't they know that I'm the guy? Like, I know, like, I could tell them anything they want to know. Who do they want me to
I like
root for?
DC villains.
I'll carry a Coke into a scene, and just let me be there, please. So I'm doing this play. We started rehearsals the beginning of April, And my agent called and said, you're going to go in an audition for one of the bank robbers. And there's a scene. We don't really know much about it, but you're a clown, like a masked bank robber. And the sides they gave me were dummy sides, of course, but it was something like, he thinks he's getting my share of the money. Have you seen this guy? Yeah, I was supposed to pick up something to that effect.
We know that scene, man. That's that scene.
So I prepared it like crazy, man. I went in there. John Papsadera had come into town from LA to do some casting.
Huge casting agent.
Amazing guy.
You'll
Does
see
work
his name
with
in a
Chris
lot of
on everything
huge
he's done, I
credits.
think.
Yes.
And as I'm sitting in this waiting room with all the other Chicago actors, a guy walks by who's John's assistant and is like, "Hey, you're the dude from that commercial, the one that Chris had directed me in, where it's like a silly cell phone commercial." I was like, yeah, that's me. I was like, oh no, is that a bad thing that they're gonna think I'm a silly commercial guy? And he's like, we love that spot. Come here, I want you to meet John, the casting director. So I go in with Papsadera. I read the scene. He's like, I really like what you're doing. You brought something specific to this character. I want you to meet our director. So the next day, this is a strip mall that you go into in
Go to
Chicago.
a two-shot of me and Marc. Holy fuck. You know what I'm saying? Holy fuck.
Meaning Chris Nolan at a strip club?
Back to
Strip.
date.
Oh, sorry, the story is not as interesting, but it's still kind of interesting. So you
I
go
had
to the
the beat
strip
in my
mall,
heart. I was
and the signs everywhere say Rory's First Kiss. That was like the fake
that was the name that
they were giving
they
the
shot
movie.
under, yeah.
So I go in, and I remember it was freezing cold, Chicago winter, and it's probably like, it's beginning of April, and I go in with Christopher Nolan, and he's sitting in a small room, and he's got a little handheld camera, and I do this scene, the bank robbery scene, and he gave me a little direction, and then we shook hands, and I walked out, and I never feel this way. I was just like, it's mine. I got it. I'm going to be that bank robber. And I got in the car. I called my mom. I tried to never do this. I was like, Mom, will you pray? Will you say a prayer for this?
Oh my God! You reached back to the
I
Lord.
reached all the way up. And
Wow.
Mom's like, yeah, what's it for? I was like, well, I didn't want to tell her what for. It's very important. So then I go back to rehearsals, and about a week or so later, I'm on my way to rehearsal, and I open the paper, and there's this article that they've shot this bank heist scene at the old post office in downtown Chicago, and they're describing the guys with the clown masks on, and I'm going, oh. I was devastated. I mean, my soul was like wounded. I was crushed. But
in your heart, you had that. That
had
was
it, and
yours,
it was-
and you met the dude.
when was a guy like me going to get an opportunity to audition for one of the greatest reboots of one of my favorite universe? I mean,
One of the greatest American living filmmakers.
you know, I was just like, so I rode the rest. I'll never forget the rest of the ride up to my stop, and I allowed myself that time to just be devastated, and then I got off the train. I was like, time to go do Shakespeare, motherfucker. Sorry, can I say that? Yeah, right. So I go do the show.
And that's the way you got to approach life. It's just like, you thought you had it, you didn't. What are you gonna do? You can't kick and scream. You're like, fuck it, moving back. Moving on
to
my
something that's
thing.
great. I'm getting to do this awesome show with these amazing actors. 4 months that job was. From rehearsal to opening, we extended all the way to closing. July 21st, my birthday, my agent calls. And at this point, I have let go. I mean, every time I'd see that they were shooting in Chicago, I'd always go down and stand with everybody else behind the things. And my agent called. He said, "Well, I don't know what to make of this. They're being real secretive, but they want you to be in the Batman movie, and you're going to be a thug. And they really won't tell us anything else, but they need to know if you have a passport." And I said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, go get one." So I just ran to the post office, and I got a passport expedited, and I went, and I told you this story the other day. I had to go back to that office, the strip mall office, and sign like some documents to get these sides that were like 2 pages that were all X'd out except for like
Everything's redacted.
everything's
It's all
redacted except it
blacked
says
out.
like, there he is, let's get him. And it said I was the driver. So I was preparing that, driving around I think at that point I traded in the Chevy's 83 Celebrity for my Dodge Intrepid 96, which was just making a lot of noise. I was driving around, there he is. I had the character. I created this thing. And then I went to the fitting the day before we shot, and they put me in this cop uniform, and I said, why am I dressed like a policeman? And Lindy Hemming, Christopher Nolan's wardrobe, said, "Oh, Christopher's so secretive, he hasn't told. You don't know anything." And I was like, "No, I don't know anything." She's like, "You'll be fine." And the next day I went to work downtown.
You still don't fucking know what you're doing?
No idea. I think I'm the driver. Why am I? So I'm coming up with new justifications, like, oh, maybe maybe I went undercover and I stole like an armored vehiel. I don't know.
Look at you acting before you're
being
even
an
being
actor.
paid to act.
Oh, big time.
This
And
is like the most elaborate episode of Punk'd ever. Right?
Can you imagine though if I got there and they were just like, dude, really? Did you
Dude,
really
I've been
think?
working with actors for 20, 22 years. I don't know anybody that's like, I came up with an inner life for my 2-line driver.
Oh,
character.
dude.
That's
this guy,
smart, dude.
this guy.
That's smart.
So I didn't think I was going to according to this, I wasn't going to have any lines. So I'd already created a character who couldn't communicate except through this condition that I had kind of imagined that was like he had the ability to giggle. Like imagine that horrifying reality where if no matter what you were trying to really say, all you could really do was just let out a little giggle. So then I get to work the next day, first day. I mean, you guys, it was like
This is Chicago still.
this is in Chicago, and it was a huge first day. They had the entire parade they were starting to set up down near LaSalle, and they had thousands of extras dressed like cops and like, for the funeral parade sequence. And the first thing I actually shot was being in the back of the ambulance after I've been shot, and Harvey Dent comes in and says, tell me what you know, and I'm not going to, and so he kidnaps me basically. And as I'm getting dressed, one of the producers of the film, he came, and he's like, so this is what we're really doing today.
And that's the first moment you hear what's happening.
What I actually knew what I was going to be doing fully in the film. And if you looked at the page, it was only, the line was, I didn't even have a line in that scene. Right. It was just supposed to be, but it said, I smirk, I think was the direction. I've got my script here somewhere. And I remember thinking, Aaron Eckhart already is scaring the shit out of me. He's so intense and he has such charisma. I thought, like, how would I ever be able to smirk or like intimidate him and make him feel threatened? And luckily, I think this idea of having this kind of giggle, it could be interpreted as sarcastic by somebody, or it could also be like fearless. And in reality, then when I found out that my character was actually supposed to be mentally ill, it couldn't have worked out better,
Dude, you played someone from Arkham. You know what I'm saying?
You're telling me.
That's fucking nuts. And to find out the day of, like you get there and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, you're going to play somebody who goes to Arkham, motherfucker.
And the rest of that week was standing next to one of the greatest actors of our time and I got to sit in hair and makeup every morning with Heath and with Christian Bale and with Aaron Eckhart and everyone who was in that sequence. We were called at the same time and they shared hair and makeup, and Heath Ledger was playing the music that he was turning me on to, and I just got to stand around with him for like 5 days.
What was he like?
Amazing.
Really? Good guy? I met him once at a Spirit Awards ceremony. I made a joke during the ceremony, and afterwards he was with Michelle Williams. And they were standing outside, and I walked past, and he was like, that was funny. And I was like, me? Thanks. And I think it was the year of Brokeback. I think I made a Brokeback joke about spitting in the hand. That was funny. But I liked him in Brokeback shit. When they announced him as the Joker, there was a lot of people, I don't know if people remember, but a lot of cats were like, what the fuck? Yeah. The guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, he ain't the fucking Joker. But I remember seeing Brokeback and being like, this dude's an actor. Like, he likes to go places the way that Oldman likes to go places or Nick Cage likes to go places. I was like, I think we'll be safe. And then he fucking turned in something that made you forget about Jack Nicholson's Joker, which was one of the most unforgettable fucking on-screen villain performances. Tallest fucking order. The dude filled the shoes.
That's what I said to him. I was a little ballsy when I think back to how scared I was being on that set. The fact that I made this, he was one of those human beings that you meet and they immediately he just set me at ease in a great way, and as did almost everybody around that set. But he had a very like special quality about him as just a person that as soon as you met, you were just like, it was something like really, I don't know how to describe it. And I mean, we were 2 seconds into conversating about bullshit, whatever, just, hey, how's it going? And I said, I'm a huge fan of this world, and when I heard that you were playing this part, I thought, like, God, wow, what a bad idea. No joke. And he goes, and then I stopped myself. I was like, David, what the fuck are you doing? And
You're talking to power.
And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, me too. And then I said, how's it going? And we started laughing, and he said, I'm having the time of my life. And he was having the best time ever. And we just,
poignant is that?
We stood around. He was the kind of person that didn't know me. I was basically a glorified extra in that film, and yet he knew I was going to travel internationally for the first time in my life, and that I was nervous a little bit about it. I was going to go to London and stay in a hotel, and he said, you know, I've got a flat if you ever want to stay at my place in London. This is just that kind of person, you know. And also there's this sequence where we're the honor guard, and we are supposed to be shooting to the the skies, and then we turn on the mayor. We're gonna shoot the newly appointed mayor, Nestor Carbonell, and Oldman saves him. And I grew up in Kansas, and I grew up with guns, but I was this sequence was really uncomfortable for me because you don't see it in the film. Of course, they cut so much stuff, but there was a whole thing of us with the guns, and he got excused at one point to go be relieved, and he saw me over like trying to learn it, and he came over and spent like an hour with me just showing me tricks he'd learned over his time in film because he knew this was I told him this is my first film. You know, he was teaching me how to use a gun and stuff like that.
So thoughtful guy. He easily could have been like, hey man, we're all on our own here. I got shit to think about. But he was like, hey, what you doing, man? Let me help you out.
Of course, and they said that.
Welcomed you into the fraternity.
Go to your trailer. You want to go to your trailer and rest? And he was like, oh, okay. And then he sees this schlumpy kid over there trying to look like he knows what he's doing. He just came over and for no reason, you know?
You mentioned music before. What music was he listening to?
Interesting. I still really dig a band called Animal Collective, and he turned me on to them. One morning, we're listening to, it was actually Panda Bear, who's in that band, had done like a side project, and he was playing this music, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And he had been to this club in Chicago that I used to go see a bunch of cool indie bands play, and so we started talking about bands that we liked in common, and yeah, I certain songs I'll listen to now, and I still remember like, man, I wouldn't know this if he hadn't turned me on to it. Yeah.
Isn't that weird to say?
Very
like,
weird.
Heath Ledger turned me on to this band.
Yeah, makes me
like, show off. You know, like, oh, I can't help it. He did.
Every time I play it in the car, too, whoever's in the car, hey,
everyone, shut up.
But in all truth, yeah, man,
How long did you spend in? Was that
with him?
one
it was
day,
just 5. No, it was 5. Like almost a total of. It was a full week because there was so many angles of that stuff, and there was so much going on with the downtown and the chaos and everything. So there was a couple days where I didn't actually work. They had me called, and I'd be standing there, and we just got to hang out.
You get
drink
paid for
coffee,
the day.
and
That's pretty
got
amazing.
to hang out
and
with,
watch Batman.
and then be like this close to the Joker and not see a seam. I mean, the makeup was.
You were that close, and it looked fantastic.
I'm in the only scene that he has his makeup on.
Yeah, that's right. Where he's just like white skin.
Dude.
And there's not white skin, peach skin. He's white skin for most of the movie. But yeah, and that's one shot where it's like he's a makeupless Joker.
Yeah, man.
That must have been unsettling to look at in and of itself.
It was. It was like I was creeped out by it in a wonderful way. I mean, this is my.
Did you get to go to overseas?
I did. So then a month after that, I went to London, and you guys got to remember at this point, I'm living in Chicago. I mean, the top game I was making in theater, I was probably bringing in $500 a week. And I had this little apartment, this studio apartment. I get to London and I go into the Mandarin Oriental in Hyde Park, and I go into this hotel.
Huge, beautiful hotel.
I go to this hotel, and like there's some chic staying on my floor. So he's got all these crates of shopping that they've just done. I was like, where am I? They gave me a burner phone. I called my mom. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm in London. I'm in this hotel.
I love that he's like the
This
Billy Ray
call is
Valentine.
free.
The Billy Ray Valentine of Batman movies.
And-
Like,
and
look
the-
where I am.
The bathroom of the hotel was bigger than my studio apartment in Chicago, and I would just hang out in there, and it like echoed. So that was, and I was there on weather cover because they.
Weather cover was for them to do the ambulance scene?
No. There's a scene after the ambulance. He takes me to another location, which is where I'm
Batman
tied
shows
up.
up.
Where
Yeah,
Batman
it's
shows
like
up.
the underground subway
That was
trestle
going to
thing.
be in this interior, and the reason why they shot that in the UK was because the director had already scouted where he wanted the scene to take place at the end of the film when Harvey Dent has kidnapped Commissioner Gordon's kids. And
That's some fucking inside dope right
so
there.
so that location where they shot it, although it's not the same location in the film, I think textually and
wanted them to tie
visually they
together
should feel
somehow.
similar, because that's 2 points at which we see Harvey Dent really when he reveals his darker nature with my character, and then later it's fully revealed. So they were shooting exteriors, and they bring when you're weather cover, you're brought in case the weather gets bad. Since mine's an interior shot, they'd call me and say, okay, we're going to jump your scene up. 21 days.
You were in fucking London at the Mandarin Oriental for 21 days?
The weather was gorgeous, and they're giving me per diem every day. And I got to go see shows. You're talking about Patrick Stewart earlier, one of my a huge hero of mine. I get to go see him doing Macbeth. I mean, just.
So this is
Just
why
to kill
movies
time.
cost
Yes.
$150 million.
Exactly.
No.
Because they're paying this guy to sit around and go see him.
I was a
I
scale
stole like
job
8
for me.
towels from the Mandarin Oriental. These towels were the
Isn't
grand.
that nuts though, dude? Like in order, and this was done, no lie, to save money.
Yeah.
To bring him over and put him on weather cover means that like, okay, if it rains, we could quickly shoot something else and we'll shoot this.
Sure.
But in order to do that,
They had unexpectedly
3
the whole
weeks.
October in London
Yeah.
was just gorgeous for 3 weeks, and so then they called me finally. My number came up, and it was time to go. And I got in the car to go to set. Oh man, you guys, I was so scared.
and you know at this
At
point
this
what
point,
you're about to do.
I know the scene that
So
we're
you
gonna
know
do.
you're like, oh my god, they finally like, all right, we'll give you some
This is
signs.
what's going to happen next. And on the drive there, I had it was just a surreal life, one of those life moments. I can be sitting in the back of that car right now, and I'll never forget. And we're pulling down this long drive. We're in South London, and we're pulling towards this massive, beautiful industrial structure kind of on the horizon. As we're getting closer, and it's coming into focus, and I can see the way that it's lit just by the moon. I was like, I know this building, and the driver is a lovely guy. He's like, oh yeah, mate, that's where they that's the cover of that, you know, that Pink Floyd album, Animals. Like that's the cover of the album, and I thought that's exactly, it's the Battersea Power Station, which is the industrial image on the
Really?
cover of Pink Floyd's Animals, which is another huge thing in my life, Pink Floyd. So then we get there, and I went upstairs, and they had and they had turned the inside of this old power station into the place where I was going to get interrogated.
Now, had you seen him in the suit prior to this?
No,
First time.
dudes.
How's that? What does it look like in a real room?
So here, man, this is so insane. I'm sitting there, and the actor in me goes, "Well, he's going to save me." And I don't know if I'll be on camera. When I doubt I will, because usually when you're the like low guy on the ladder, they're going to shoot everyone else's coverage and they get to you last. But I thought, just in case, I want that moment, the first time I see Batman, to be as real as it can possibly be. Because I was just shaking, literally shaking, and no acting. And so they get me in the chair and they test everything. And at this point, I know that he's on set, because the presence of the room has just gotten really serious. And there's like I don't know why, they had I think it was just a light bouncer, so, you know, white bounce. They had something over here, but he was on the other side of it. So I knew I wasn't going to see him until it was the time. And he was warming up his voice, and he was getting ready, and Aaron was pacing and getting ready for his, and we did a wider first time all the way kind of through, and we're doing it, and he comes, you know, he's in my periphery at the point that he's gonna save me.
He enters that scene by
Yeah.
grabbing the coin, right?
By grabbing the coin. And a lot of things happened in that moment. I didn't shit my pants.
You kept it in. That's a
Came
good
close,
part.
but I look up, and and I'm doing this thing with this character that I've created, and no one has yet said to me like, "Great," but I felt this encouragement from the director, because he would always just be like, yeah. Like, he's not going to go over the top and be like, "Oh, that was wonderful." You know, if he likes it, he's just going to keep moving.
Right.
And but I was very insecure. Like, am I making an ass? And this is really me trying it out in its full form now, getting terrorized. And I'm crying. This character's crying, and making kind of weird noises are coming out of me. And in comes Batman, and he's like, "You really think that, you know, you can learn something from him?" And the two of them are such serious, focused actors, and they're such lovely guys, but very serious. And I hear like, you, and they break, and they start laughing.
Really?
They laugh hard, and I am crushed.
You thought it was at you?
Oh, of course it was. I'm looking at the ground like, oh my God, I'm being that weird. Because it was really our first full time going for it, you know?
Right.
We'd rehearsed, we'd blocked and rehearsed.
So you think they literally cracked it, your performance?
So I'm like, and this hand is on my shoulder all of a sudden, and it's the gloved, it is the hand, and it's even got the little things on the side, you know? And I'm like, and he's got the blackened out eyes and the cowl, and he comes in, and he's like, oh no, like he got it, that I was feeling that insecure. And he's like, And he never really broke his Bruce Wayne American dialect, except this one time he did it, and it was just to me, and he was like, "Oh no, mate, I'm not laughing at you." He was like, "That coin, it just landed on my bat head." And they were dying laughing because when Aaron had flipped the coin and Christian was supposed to catch it, it had landed on the cowl.
Genius.
And they ended up, and he was like, "No, you're wonderful." And then I'm looking at him going, "Are they getting this on camera?" Because I'm looking at
I want to frame every cell of this right now.
It's so weird, you guys, because you're this close looking at like the utility belt, and it's the mastery of this stuff. Now I've gotten to be around a number of things like this.
Yeah.
When you're up close, it looks amazing, but it looks so different than it looks the way it's meant to look in the film.
Of course,
so
once
up
it's
in
lit.
person, it's a very different thing, and there's a science behind that that's fascinating, you know. But it was surreal.
What was it like? You right away, dude. So you wind up picking up a part in the movie where you work with Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, and Aaron Eckhart. Like, those are the three fucking stars, with the exception of Gary Oldman. You worked with fucking everybody. And Gary Oldman was in the scene.
Gary Oldman was in the scene. So
where you
his
fucking
trailer
shot.
was next to mine. And every time I'd hear his trailer open for him to go out and burn one, I had brought it back so I could go out and have one too.
That's
I was just
awesome.
like, "Oh, are you here again?" And he was so cool. Really nice guy, man.
All the time.
We love smoking.
2 at a time. Isn't that how you guys do it?
Yes, feels like freedom.
My God. So for 3 weeks, you got to live in London on a Warner Brothers dime, go see plays, and then it ends with your waiting period.
Yeah.
Ends with, and now get to be part of a cinema classic. And you're part of a cinema classic, dude. You're not just a dude who's in it. When you think of that movie, you remember you.
Thanks.
When you think of that scene, you remember what you did in that scene. Like, that's why I was like, there's no way that those fuckers were laughing at you, because they're both fucking actors, man. So if they saw you getting like shitty and jittery and scared, you know they'd be like, this shit's bringing the fucking A game, and they have to up their fucking game. So that's why when you're telling the story, I was like, there's no way they were fucking like, I'm glad to hear that, because that is a memorable fucking performance in that flick, man. Like, you don't know a dude's name, and you're like, oh, that fucking guy. So much so that when you pop up in Ant-Man, I think I was with Muse, and we were both like, oh, it's the Dark Knight guy. All right, so on Dark Knight, anything else that you remember? What was the demeanor of a Chris Nolan on set?
Amazing, man.
The
thing that I've been really blessed, man. I've been able in my career to work with, I think, just leaders in this field, and I really think that and going back to like the stage too, there's this quality that I found in masterful directors like that. It's a kind of confidence that greatly transcends cockiness, a confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you're trying to do or say with the scene, and having all the pieces at play up here in this way that if he had this, like, I don't know how to describe it, there's like presence about him that if he had, we didn't have much time to interact, but if he had said to me like, I feel like you should be on a tricycle here, I would have been like, yes. Like, I would,
You're like, oh my God, that's always
Great idea.
what's been missing from the Batman mythos is a tricycle.
a tricycle. And he had this this air about him, this quality that was, and it's been, I can see it embodied in different people in different ways. For him, it was like just a quiet kind of confidence. He kept his monitor on, like, it was like an iPad, which at that time was kind of very new. Right here. So he was always right off the action. So when we were shooting the scene in the back of the ambulance, I remember they had cut a part out of the ambulance so he could be right there and just feeding a little side coaching. But the thing I'll always love and remember the most was I was so nervous, and I'm sure, being who he is, and so aware of all things, that he probably sensed that instantly, because I think it's like, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for having me today.
He's like, either this kid's happy to meet me or he's on a lot of coke.
And he started joking with me in this way that was made, it almost felt like it was between us. Do you know where he'd like come put his hand on my shoulder and be like, oh, you're getting all thespian on me. Are you ready to go and beat that? And it was like breaking, just getting me to loosen up in this way that, so he's not like the serious. He's very serious, very focused, but he had a really funny sense of humor, and I found that really surprising. I wasn't expecting that.
You don't look at those movies and go like, he seems like a funny guy.
It's a laugh a minute.
But you look at those movies and you go, God dang, man.
You were there for it, man.
He changed the landscape when it comes to superhero films, and I don't know if he did something, he achieved something that was so true to the source material, and that's something that I I'm gonna be able to show my grandkids. I hope someday. You know.
Yeah, it's like you can look at one of those movies and say, "Oh yeah, that should have been Oscar nominated. It was Oscar nominated. It won an Oscar." And you don't blink for a second because it's cinema.
Yeah. Yeah.
Impressive. God, beyond impressive. Dude, but you fit in. You know what I'm saying? You don't stick
you.
out like sore thumb in the midst of the, like, you fucking blend into that world, man. And that's a memorable, is that your first on-screen appearance?
Yeah.
It's fucking memorable.
Not
It's a
bad.
way to begin a career. And the choices that you made, you know, acting's a job of choices. It all comes down to choices and stuff. The choices you made such an impact, man, that fucking, that scene, people remember that fucking scene.
Thanks.
And it's not because of like, Batman catches the coin and then they have this back and forth. The fucking dude who's terrified in the chair, who they're talking about, who they're having a conversation about, adds to the fucking scene, heightens that scene. So good on you.
That is a
man.
hell of a way to get called up from the minors, man.
You ain't
Well,
kidding.
and what a hell of a
Holy
way to
fuck.
look at all the times that I got shit back in the day for blowing my lawn mowing money on comic books. I was so vindicated when I came home from that trip, living in my little studio apartment with long boxes up to here, just going like, if that's the only thing I ever get to do film-wise, then I just felt so like there were so many people I wanted to call and be like, remember when you used to give me shit for my comic?
This
like,
shit panned out.
yeah,
Under
man.
the trunk of my Intrepid, I got a box full of slippers from the Mandarin Oriental that I might have borrowed from the hotel.
I just want to point out the Mandarin Oriental is fucking expensive to stay at, man. But for 21 days, dude, do you get to get room service on that too?
I didn't get. They gave me a per diem, and I would. I was broke. I mean, I wasn't flat broke, but I have been.
You might
flat
have been
broke
making
before.
more on your per diem
I
than
was
you were
keeping
making
the per
theater.
diem.
Yes.
And then I go to this is what I still this is embarrassing to admit if you're listening, but I do this to
Acting
this
tips.
day. I travel a lot. We don't live in hotels as much now as just like Airbnbs or like a
Right.
rented apartment. And I like to take my per diem and go buy groceries for the week and then go out like one night a week maybe. We'll go because my family travels with me now.
You got a
And
wife and kid. You don't need to
wife
go
and
out
kid, and we
anymore,
just
man.
So I was doing that then. I'd be like, down to the. They thought this guy's such an idiot. I didn't know, man. I'd have like a, like, like whatever the British version is of the Hungry Man, in my little bag from their version of the 7-Eleven, and be like, do you have a microwave that I could? And they'd be like, and they'd send it up on like a cart. They'd have microwave with like silverware.
They're like,
and,
he
a
is
nice
in
glass.
The Dark Knight. He must be somebody.
He's got a lot of these beefy bloke dinners, so I guess
Maybe
here
he's
you go.
boy Joker. We got to treat him well. Let him use our microwave. That's fucking phenomenal, man. But that's just the Dark Knight story. We get to tell an Ant-Man story next. Go to the wide, man. On the very next episode, which Dave is going to be on, man, come back and we're going to talk about entering the Marvel universe, man, in the tiniest way possible. Teeny tiny. That's all we got time for right now. Fuck, wasn't that amazing? Didn't I tell you?
Thanks, you guys.
Fucking hell of a
Come
pedicure
on.
pal right there. This is a guy you want to get a
Jeez.
pedicure next to, man, because fucking stories like this. Just amazing fucking stories. Give it up for Dave Dastmalchian.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Well done.
It was 20 minutes or more between saying it and saying it again. So I'll take points on that.
You got to
one.
do the finger.
That's what did it for me. It was Dastmalchian. That's what did it. Big thanks to Dave Dastmalchian, man. Come back next episode, and we're going to talk more. And this time it'll be about Ant-Man and fucking Marvel and stuff like
Yes.
that. But until then, man, thanks for hanging out with us. I've been Kevin Smith.
Marc Bernardin.
And guess who that is?
Say it at home.
Say it.
Say
You
it
can
at
say it,
home.
Dastmalchian.
Yes.
Look at that. Isn't that
Dave
fucking awesome?
Dastmalchian. Thanks, you guys. This has been
Don't go
amazing.
anywhere. There's more
We're
coming.
not letting you out.
Yeah, we're
No,
gonna take
I'm never.
more
Don't
out.
worry. You can come back next week to film more episodes. Like
Co-host,
Dastmalchian's
trust
still
me,
here.
dude. You'll be riding shotgun with Marc very soon. Stick around, dudes, and ladies as well. Anybody, come back in one more episode in 2 days. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com.
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, click that thing below that says subscribe. Every time you click that, you save a baby kitten from murder.